It's the Daily Dog.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Daily Doug. Thanks for hanging out with me today. It is a Monday, and y'all know what we do on Mondays. We go to some metal music, and I don't know if Van Halen is metal, but they're metal enough for me, y'all. Let's call them metal adjacent. Van Halen is known as a hard rock band, but there are many, many people that have been asking me for months to listen to Eruption, the guitar solo, the classic guitar solo from Eddie Van Halen, and that's what we're up to today. This will be the third time on the channel for music from Van Halen. The first time was actually a cover. In episode 110, I took a look at Jump, a special acoustic cover by guitarist Mike Dawes, and I was really into that one. All the way to episode 491, we get Mean Street from Van Halen, and I really enjoyed looking at that one back in late November of 2022. So today we're going to look at Eruption, and we're going to include You Really Got Me Going. And I am glad that you are here. Here's a little bit of backstory. These songs are from Van Halen's debut studio album, released in February of 1978. The band formed, I believe, in 73, and they had been gigging around Southern California trying to generate some interest in the band. They even attracted the attention of Gene Simmons early on. They ended up landing a record deal in the summer of 1977 with Warner Brothers, and they went into the studio to record their debut album. And I found a quote from bassist Michael Anthony, who recalled that they didn't have much material ready for those recording sessions, so they basically just went in and played what they had been doing in their live shows. And as a result, the album only took a few weeks to record. And the music-loving world responded in kind. In just 8 months, the album went platinum. And by the album's 20th birthday, it had achieved diamond status, which is over 10 million copies sold. So, like I said, I was requested to react to Eruption, which is the short second track on the album. This is a guitar solo from Eddie, and it's widely considered one of the great guitar solos in the repertoire. And I learned while reading in that Eruption was often played together with the next song on the album, which is You Really Got Me. And that is their cover of the classic song by the Kinks. The Kinks version was originally released in 1964. And I think David Lee Roth had like a greatest hits album of the Kinks, and they listened to some of their music all the time. So they did some covers of Kinks music, and this is one of them. And the funny thing is, You Really Got Me became Van Halen's debut single. How about that, right? Van Halen, when we think of Van Halen and their debut single out of the box is a cover of a Kinks song. It's really fascinating. Mainly, this was done to beat another band, which was called Angel, to the punch. Angel was preparing to release their version of the cover of this song by the Kinks, and Van Halen's management and some of the members of the band were like, yeah, we need to get this out first. Later on, Eddie voiced dissatisfaction at the cover being the first single, but once you get out of the box and you're off and going, you can't really go back and change things, right? But it ended up working out for the band. Right? It got them going. So we've got David Lee Roth on lead vocals, Eddie Van Halen is on guitars and backing vocals, Michael Anthony on bass and backing vocals, and Alex Van Halen is on the drums. I have pulled a track that has Eruption and You Really Got Me Going right together. So we're going to listen to the entire thing together, and altogether it's just a little over 4 minutes long. So it's not going to be that long of a track, but I'm really curious to hear Eddie play this solo. I don't believe that I've heard it before. One of the things that I read as I was getting ready to record this episode is that Eddie was playing on a guitar called a Frankenstrat, right? And so the Frankenstrat is a guitar that Eddie created. It's a combination of a Gibson and a Fender Stratocaster. And that's about all that I know about that. But I think that that's really cool. Even on their debut album, he's playing his own Frankenstein monster of a guitar. So let's take a look at Eruption going into You Really Got Me from Van Halen. Off we go. Starts with the drums. And that's an A flat. Flat 7 to 1. Push to the E flat. Sounds like a little bit of a classical etude in there. That's quite classically inspired. That's awesome. Double hand tapping technique. Yeah, this reminds me of stuff from Vivaldi. With his amp turned up to 11. Yeah, they stay in. He started on A flat, he moved to E flat, and that's where that ends. Goes back to A flat.
Girl, you really got me now. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing. Girl,
Young David Lee Roth. He's got a lot of flair in his voice, though. Up a step. Full step.
Please don't ever let me be. I only wanna be by your side.
So I hear that in A flat, but it's A flat mixolydian. It's an A flat major chord, a major 1 chord, but flat 7 is used. Right, 2 chord. They go up to B flat, and it's B flat mixolydian too. And it's E flat mixolydian. It's like you're using 3 different keys. Michael down there with the big bass. So I don't know what I'm doing. Girls can do that. This is great. I don't think I've ever heard this cover. E flat, 7th chord. Are they going to stay in E flat? They do. It ends there. Wow, that was fun. That was fun. I need to go back and try to hear Eruption again. It's so short, right? Just a little under 2 minutes, but boy, just a shot across the bow. To the rock fans is like there is a new sheriff in town, and his name is Eddie Van Halen, and he plays a Frankenstein monster of a guitar, and you cannot turn your attention away from him, and off they go. That was wonderful. On the success of this debut album, I read that the band set out on an extensive world tour in this year, 1978. So they get their record deal in the summer of '77. They go in, take a few weeks, play it down. It gets released in the early part of 1978, and then they go on a big time world tour. And most of the time for that tour, they served as an opening act for Black Sabbath and then sometimes for Journey. But they did headline some of their own shows in Europe and Japan. 174 shows in 10 months. To publicize their debut album, and then they go back into the studio. They pause from touring and they record their follow-up second album, and the rest is history. They went on to record 12 studio albums and were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2007. And most of y'all that are watching this know, sadly, we lost Eddie to cancer in 2020. But his legacy endures. Wow, does it endure. And the legacy of the band endures and remains, I think, an important voice in the hard rock scene around the world. They are the best. They're one of the best at this style of music. And I was taken with Eddie's, just the dexterity and the quality of his playing. He is using classical technique in his stuff. It sounds like etudes that we would play on keyboard, just warming up and playing those guitar arpeggios and those nice open chordal voicings. And I really enjoyed that. Friends, the entire album, the debut album from Van Halen, is relatively short, and they've got some other songs from this that I think I want to get to, that I have heard of, but I need to get more into. So I know that I will be returning to Van Halen before too long, maybe even from this same album. But I think that's all for this Metal Monday. Friends, I thank you for being with me as we have been listening to Eruption, and you really got me going, from Van Halen. Thanks, y'all. We'll see you next time on another edition of The Daily Doug.